Okay. I believe we're live. I think we're live, Lauren.
Yay!
We are live.
Let's do live.
Welcome everyone. Welcome.
Welcome to your doom.
Who have we got so far watching us doing this glorious, glorious stream?
Who is watching us?
Straight in with the questions. Love it.
Everyone is going to be working on the game.
So yeah, today's topic is going to be about remakes.
Yay!
Remakes, the glorious. Also, actually, before we start, how's the audio? Left ear, right ear, both ears. Is it mono or stereo? I need to know because I did some more tweaks and feedback is much appreciated. Feedback is much appreciated. So let me know. Yeah, so hello everyone. Hey.
Hello, everyone.
Lauren, you making note of all the questions we've had so far?
Okay. I'll make a note.
I will try to get through things. Yeah, so remakes. Obviously, it kind of came from an unlikely source. We had Takeshi Kitano, who is of course the director of Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age, doing an interview with the International Business Times UK division, and they asked him about Final Fantasy remakes, obviously because he's working on a remaster right now, and he started talking about the fact that it's from a remastering perspective, they've done quite a lot of games, but if you look at what everyone else has done, pretty much the remasters come from the PlayStation 2 era. That was obviously when we were doing PlayStation 3 HD editions, it was remasters of the PlayStation 2 era. And there have been PS4 remasters, which have been of the PS3 era as well. But no one's really done, I don't think anyone's done a remaster of a PS1 title, right? The only ones that kind of were, I guess, were the Vita games, maybe?
Yeah, no.
Maybe.
No, like no Final Fantasy 8 or Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 9.
Final Fantasy 9? Was it
PS1. Oh, they remastered it.
On mobile?
For Steam.
Yeah, but...
It was quite a big, extensive remaster.
I guess. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess.
I guess.
But yeah, so he was basically saying that if they were going to do...
Oh, hi, Paul. Hi, everyone else, but hi, Paul. I miss you too.
But yeah, he was going to say that if they are going to do more stuff in the future, remakes or remasters, probably more likely to be remakes if it's stuff that's pre-PlayStation 2. Because obviously they've just done Final Fantasy X, 10-2. They're working on the kind of Final Fantasy 11 remastered version for mobile, which has just kind of disappeared. Final Fantasy 12 obviously is getting a remaster, which is coming out in a couple of months. And 13 could conceivably get one to come out on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah. I could see a remaster edition, remaster collection. So we have, first of all, we have 1216 Rockman, who asks, who the hell are going to work on all of these remakes? No clue.
Square Enix have got 8 divisions. I know that strictly they have their set things that they need to work on. It would most likely be one of divisions 1 to 4 work on internal things. So probably 1 or 2.
Yeah. And then Anthony Karami asks, do we think that Final Fantasy 7 will be at
That's
E3?
not remake related.
Well, Final Fantasy 7 remake, technically.
Well, not future remake related.
Yeah.
Are they going to announce a new remake?
I mean, I hope that it will be at E3, but I'm not sure. Steve Zaref asks, where are the polls we can vote on? I mean, Square Enix should have made a poll or something by now.
to for more of the story on this, so Kitano said that they're basically going to be doing more remakes in the future, but he said that it's unlikely to be Square Enix internally that decide which ones to do. Well, obviously they're going to decide, but they're going to do it based on what the fans are most anticipating. Now, obviously, from a Final Fantasy VII remake perspective, that's by far the remake that the world was anticipating the most, probably the most anticipated game. So it wasn't really too hard of a decision for them to make with choosing that one. But the next one is a bit more contentious. Should they do another one?
Yeah.
Now, in terms of polls, now Square Enix do their surveys that they do every now and again. They just put stuff out, but it's not. I don't really think that's what they were referring to. It's more they want to see the enthusiasm. Now, if you're thinking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, they didn't need to look at polls to figure out that people wanted that. It was they were getting so much attention from the media. The communities were constantly asking them about when the Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to happen. And that was for years and years. We're talking about a decade of them just harassing them constantly. Katase probably couldn't go through an interview without people asking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Final Fantasy 6, 8, or 9 and 5 haven't really had that kind of intense pressure on Square to make people know that that's really what they're looking for. Like the fans haven't really told them, I guess, that on a wider scale. Like obviously there's pockets of fans that are saying like we want a Final Fantasy VI remake, we want a Final Fantasy 9 remake, but it's not like a mass thing. It's not like hundreds of thousands of people are hammering them all the time and setting up communities around these things, and the media aren't constantly asking them about their like remakes for future games. I mean, like I think from what I saw, there was in the video we just did, there was the question by VentureBeat right after Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced, where they asked about Final Fantasy 8 or 9 being next. There was the question from Famitsu in January, where they asked Katase, like, why aren't you remaking Final Fantasy 6? And then obviously the question we've just had, but it wasn't them specifically saying, like, are you going to do a remake of Final Fantasy 6? It was just, what remake is next? And he said, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Sheridan Dwyer asks or says, I may be crazy, but honestly, I want a true Final Fantasy IV remake. Could you imagine fully voice acted with beautiful graphics and opening cinematic throughout? I
didn't see them touching Final Fantasy IV again for a while.
No, I mean, granted, they got like a sequel and stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean that's when Nomura was asked about
nice.
A Final Fantasy 8 or 9 remake, it was quite interesting actually, because obviously Square have remade 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
5 was planned to be remade, but I believe they cancelled it. I think that was it was going to be part of the DS wave, but they cancelled it for whatever reason.
Which one was this?
5.
Oh.
So I mean, he was talking about how he loves order, he loves the chronological way that they've done things.
Yeah.
And
so if they just the fact that they just kind of skipped 5 and 6, it's a bit like.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a monetary perspective and like what the fans want. But, you know, Final Fantasy V is one of those games where in the West it never really got much love. I don't think it's a remake that anyone's particularly craving for that reason. Just like, I mean, Final Fantasy 3 was slightly different, but I don't think anyone was particularly craving that over here either. I mean, if you look at... If you ever do one of those, the
original didn't really have anything to didn't have like story or characters. Now they've added it with the the DS remake. But yeah, and then Rachel Casterton, hi.
They can't see your hand over there, though.
Hi. Said if they decided to do Final Fantasy 8 or 9. Would they do a complete remake so to change the story to fit in today, or would it be the same with way better graphics? And actually, this is a question that could be easily pertain to what they're going to do with the Final Fantasy VII remake.
I think 7's slightly different though.
Maybe. In what sense?
There's a wider mythology around 7. You got the compilation, whereas 8 and 9 don't have that. So the story that they have to tell. Like, there isn't all this other stuff that we're aware of that's going on at the same time the Final Fantasy 7's happening. Yeah. Whereas with 8 and 9, they don't have that.
Yeah. But do you think that they would... I mean, they would definitely have to do something different with the script. Like, the script of all these games.
With the Yeah, like the scenes will be. I would imagine that if they did, the scenes will be roughly the same, but they'll have to rework it because it wasn't written with voice acting in mind.
Exactly, and if anything, like that's kind of why I actually am quite against remakes personally. I think the addition of like voice acting in games where there wasn't any voice acting almost sort of cheapens the game, because like if you think about it, with Final Fantasy VI, everybody's saying they want a remake, right? But part of the charm of Final Fantasy VI is the 16-bit graphics. Like the fact that, you see these guys with their eyes bulging out and like jumping up and down crazy. The fact that freaking Edgar pulls out a freaking chainsaw out of nowhere and that Sabin suplexes a train. Like, how are you going to see that in like today's graphics? Like there's a bit of the like the extremities of those games, because they were in the graphics that they were in, just worked, and I just don't see how they can do that with updated graphics. Like I almost feel like they were masterpieces in themselves, which is why like I almost don't want to touch any of the 16-bit ones. Maybe Final Fantasy
they kind
8,
of did like obviously with Final Fantasy 3 and 4 remake on the DS, like they did it there. They kind of ported it to a new style of graphics.
Yeah, they did. But it still doesn't, like, it looks a bit bad. Like maybe Final Fantasy 3, because they actually added characters, it was a bit different. But like with Final Fantasy 4, it's like it wasn't quite there. I probably would prefer to have played it with 16-bit graphics instead, how it was properly
So we have a couple of points here. So Fire Leo, do I think the next remake will come on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5? I don't think it will come on either. I think that, well, PlayStation 5 I think is more viable than the PlayStation 4, but I have the DS or the Switch, like the 3DS or the Switch, probably if it was going to be 5 or 6, I can see that it would be going on the Switch maybe, or the 3DS.
Yeah.
And then we've got Anthony Kirami. I don't know why Square takes so long to make games. Naughty Dog and Rockstar make polished games in a few years' time.
That is a completely different system.
If you break it down and say I don't know why BD1 takes 20 billion years to make games, but the problem is they're not working on one game at a time. If you look at how many games BD1, BD2 they pump out all the time, it's if they were able to just focus and say, we're going to work on one game at a time, which is how it used to be.
Yeah.
Back when it was Squaresoft, because
organized.
they were a lot smaller as a company.
Yeah.
They had less focus, but now they're working on 20 billion spin-offs, mobile games, external games that they're having to oversee.
Final Fantasy 14 just takes up so much resource.
And because they're this bigger company as well, I mean, Sony kind of do it in terms of they have their first-party studios helping each other, and EA have done it as well, but Square obviously, BD1, BD2, they will help each other out if they need it, which is why, Tabit as a team, after they finished Top and Type 0, they moved over to helping on Final Fantasy 15. Versus 13 people ended up working on Final Fantasy 13. They kind of go as a mishmash, which, it's lack of organization, I would say. I mean, Naughty Dog, obviously, they're working on generally 2 games at the same time, and they're expanding. And have they got less consistent now because of that? I'm not too sure. I can't even remember when The Last of Us came out.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, they kind of really overdid Uncharted. I almost feel like I don't care about Uncharted anymore.
Well, there was a big break between Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4 because they were doing The Last of Us, but now it's they did The Last of Us Remastered, they got Last of Us 2 coming out, you've got the Uncharted
kind of gone into a bit of a slump.
Mini game thing coming out.
To be honest, the company that I think has the best in terms of just quality and also just games in general is freaking Rockstar. And granted, they do take a long time in order to make their games. But, the fact that they just take the focus off of one franchise for a while and then focus on something else.
Yeah,
and then they come back to it eventually.
The
fact that they're going back to Bully.
If
it's so good.
They've got... They spend so long on crafting their franchises. Yeah. So, I mean, there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 GTA games since GTA 3, which came out God knows how long ago. You've only had Red Dead Redemption, but before that was Red Dead. I can't remember how long it was between those two, and obviously you got the new Red Dead coming out as whenever. They don't really do too much else. LA Noire was outsourced, obviously.
The facial mechanics in that game were amazing.
And then they did Warriors, I think it was. The game called Warriors. But yeah, they just kind of they're in a really nice situation because they basically don't have failures.
No. They make sure that their games are crap hot.
The money they make off GTA 5, which to your reference, is still one of the best-selling games every single year.
That came out forever ago. It
just prints money for them, so they can take their time. They can do whatever they want, and they don't need to be in a position where they need to make 20 billion games. Rockstar from GTA 5 probably made more than most Japanese publishers.
Yeah.
Like, in the last 5 years.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, no, I'm Anthony Karami. I'm totally sold on Bully. I love Bully. Like, that is like one of my favorite games of all time. I know it's probably not like on brand right now just because of how much like bullying in school is quite bad, but like Bully is just, it's my fave.
All right, we've drifted away from topic here, right? So
drifted away, but yeah, essentially like remakes.
I missed 5 out of the title, but out of a remake for 5, 6, 8, or 9, which would be your preference right now? Because I think that is kind of telling in itself. Because I think if you ask the fan base before the Final Fantasy VII remake was announced, if you ask the fan base which was the game they wanted remade, I would think that the majority of them would have said at least Final Fantasy VII plus something else.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think now that the Final Fantasy VII remake has been announced, part of the problem that is going to happen is that the main ones that can be remade now there isn't a consistent focus. Like, people want 6, or they want 8, or they want 9. Like, there's a split. And I don't really know if it's a 3-way split.
8, 9. 9.
I don't really know if it's a 3-way split, or where there's equal interest in each of them.
To all of you saying 9, though, it's really interesting because, like, I don't see how they can make 9 better. 9 is perfect.
It's just like one of those things where, I was speaking to someone, one of the younger people where I work, and films that came out in the 80s, for example, like Terminator, at the time was revolutionary. And even like Star Wars, like the original Star Wars, obviously before the remastered ones as well, but at the time they were seen as amazing. Like, I mean, you even when you were looking at Uncharted screenshots of Uncharted 1,
screenshots of Uncharted, it looks like crap, and I thought that was like the
and that's the
pinnacle.
Thing. Like, we have the reference of hindsight of what Final Fantasy 9 was when we played it. Whereas if you're asking like a 13-year-old to go back and play Final Fantasy 9 right now, compared to the games they can play, they'll just be like, why the hell would I play this? It's true. It's not so much about the fact that it's fine how it is. It's how can they market Final Fantasy 9 to a new audience? They can't really.
But then that's the thing. Like, why do we keep having to go backward? Like, why remake it in general to make it
because
more
it's what everyone wants, apparently.
I know, it's just funny. Like,
I mean,
why recreate the past?
Like before the Final Fantasy VII remake came out,
like, you would never, ever, ever. Although arguments would say that the new, episode 7 was actually A New Hope again, but you would never, ever, 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 ever even touch A New Hope.
Well, George Lucas did.
Well, he did. I'm sorry, he did. But like remake it like completely with like new actors, like completely just remake it frame for frame.
Disney may well do that.
Oh, I really hope they don't.
I guess I mean like.
But you wouldn't touch it. Like, don't
another question for you guys, right? But if you can cast your minds back 2 years to this point exactly, where we're like a couple of weeks before E3, where they of course announced the Final Fantasy VII remake that people didn't know was going to happen. Would you have rather that they announced the Final Fantasy VII remake or Final Fantasy 16 at that point?
Fantasy 16.
Because in the past they announced 9, 10, and 11 on the same day. Like 12 was already announced before 10 was even coming out.
But then
they did it a lot more back in those days.
Actually, I changed my my answer. I'd rather them not announce anything and just get the stuff that they have in the pipeline done.
No, but if like let's say they announced Final Fantasy 16 and they had internally the deadline that it was going to come out not this year but next year.
Yeah.
And they just announced it beforehand.
Yeah.
So that then it's a 3-year kind of cycle.
I think I would want 16. But that's just me.
People seem to be in agreement with you, Lawrence.
Yeah.
I still say that for Square Enix to really work with what they had in terms of building momentum, like Final Fantasy 16 has to come out next year. Like if they wait another 4 or 5 years before Final Fantasy 16 comes out, like every single thing they did to build up Final Fantasy 15 is a waste of time.
I know. That's the thing though, isn't it? Because like we've had nothing. We've had no inkling that they're even working on Final Fantasy 16 at the moment. I mean, there's been like the theories, but
I think you'll find, Steve Muntz, that Final Fantasy Tactics already was remastered for the PlayStation Portable.
But yeah, I mean, to go back to it, which one would I want to be remade? I think the only one that I think deserves it is 8, because Final Fantasy 9, although the graphics aren't that great, like it's still charming, and like the graphics didn't suffer that much. Like, I mean, they just remastered it as well, so it looks a little bit better anyway. But like Final Fantasy 8, that game looks like crap no matter what you do to it. Like, that game looks like poo.
Come on, say your line,
Squall's
Lawrence.
face looks like a freaking jigsaw puzzle. Like Picasso just threw up on his face.
But the thing is, though, when you were playing on a 480p TV, it didn't look that bad.
Matter. But it was still like really sort of jaggedy
but then, like,
and horrible.
compared to other graphics at the time, that was good.
Yeah, but honestly, I would have probably preferred them to just do Final Fantasy 7 graphics.
No. I love Final Fantasy 8's graphics. I love them. I thought Final Fantasy's graphics were great.
I thought the FMVs were great, but like the characters just looked like poop.
I love Final Fantasy 8's in-game graphics.
You're so sweet.
They were such a step up from Final Fantasy 7, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the other thing about Square back in those days. Like the kind of the leaps they took from Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in terms of technology and graphics were crazy. But I can't really say the same thing about, like, you look at 13 through to Lightning Returns. They didn't really improve that much graphically, even in the space of 4 or 5 years. And I think that's part of Katase's problem, because especially with the Final Fantasy 7 remake, he's trying desperately to make sure that all the parts have the same kind of quality. I don't know, is that a good thing? Should it be that like they all have a consistent graphical style, or is it just make them better as you go through?
Perhaps I said that wrong though. I think maybe Final Fantasy 8 hasn't aged well at all. I think that's probably the best way to put it. So I'm not saying like it looks crap. It looked crap at that time. I'm just saying that it's probably the game that's aged the worst, because even though like games like Final Fantasy 6 are in 16-bit graphics, like you don't really care too much. You still kind of get the gist and you still can get the emotions out. But with Final Fantasy 8, it's just it's difficult.
Yeah. I never really was looking at their facial expressions, though. I didn't need to.
I just liked it. Final Fantasy 8 is like my favorite. Like, it's one of my favorites, so...
Wait. I had evidence that people were saying the sound was okay. Mr. Bleach David 2 is saying it's only coming out of left speaker. Quick poll. Left, right, both. Where's the sound coming from? I need to know.
Yes. Yes, Samantha. I definitely need that scene. You're the best looking guy here. Oh, you look amazing. Too bad that my eye is up in my skull and not in my face.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, if I was Square Enix and I was looking at which game to remake next, I would just do Final Fantasy VIII. Like, it's to me that makes the most sense, because it was the best-selling one after Final Fantasy VII.
And it's also
I'm not talking about.
They're all saying it's left. Damn it!
Damn it!
You guys when we started. But yeah, no, I love 8. I think that 8 for me personally has the best soundtrack of all of the games. It has my most preferenced soundtrack of all of the games. And I honestly didn't mind the junction system. I mean, you had to just draw from an island. That was a nice cheat that you could do, but it's okay. End of story.
Thanks, Lauren.
Done. I love the characters. Like I love Cypher. I love Adia. I love Squall and Quistis and Renoa and Irvine.
Sora, I know 10 outsold 8, but that came out on the PlayStation 2, and that's not going to get a remake. So I'm not including it in the conversation.
That is the thing that I get really upset about, though, is that like nowadays, because 12 is out, I feel like it's because of that. 10 is getting weird amounts of hate. Like weird amounts of hate. Like people like legitimately do not like 10, and I'm just kind of like, but
I think 10 is getting a lot of hate.
Like the universal.
I feel like 10's getting a lot of hate because people are combining both games into one.
Oh, Final Fantasy 10 too.
Yeah, and because especially because the 10-10-2 HD remaster, which sold very well for a game that people don't like. I think that people are combining that package in, and also I think the other problem they have is that you had the whole Final Fantasy 13 linearity comments, and then people started going, well, it's funny you talk about that because Final Fantasy 10 was just as linear and people love that. Yeah. So then they have to start saying, well, actually, no, we don't like it anymore. Yeah. To make their point.
And like, I mean, I personally, like, I'm not trying to come at anybody, but like with Final Fantasy 12.
I feel like you're coming at me.
I know, I'm coming at you. With Final Fantasy 12, I could not get into that game, like the story at all. But Final Fantasy X, I was just like, yeah, this is great. I understand what's going on. And oh no, the camera's off. Final Fantasy X was just like, all right, this is cool. I understand what's going on and that sort of thing. But Final Fantasy 12, I was just like, all right, who the F is this guy? Okay, wait, why am I doing this? Wait, why are you a traitor? Wait, what's going on? And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do Final Fantasy 12. But everybody's just like, oh, it's the best game ever now. And I'm just like, did I miss something?
You did miss something. You missed something, Lawrence. Okay, you were 12 when a game came out.
I know. Oh.
It was a bit too...
It's because it made me read.
It was too advanced for your childish mind.
It made me read too much.
I think 12 it came at a difficult time.
I just don't understand why it's all switched. Why is everybody being like, Final Fantasy 12 is the best game ever? Oh my god! And it's like top 1 on every list. And it's just like, Final Fantasy 10 is like last? Like what are you
That's
even
the thing that has bugged me about... I mean, like, you can't obviously control people's opinions and they'll do whatever they want. But, the fact that, if you look at people's top Final Fantasy games lists from 10 years ago... Final Fantasy 12 was generally running around alongside Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 3. Whereas now, people are saying it's like the best game, second best. Final Fantasy 7 gets pushed down because it's not cool to like that anymore. Final Fantasy 10 generally gets a lot of hate. Final Fantasy 8 gets a lot of hate. It's generally Final Fantasy 6, 9, and 12 get the most appreciation now, I think, which are the worst selling ones, which doesn't really make too much sense, but...
But yeah, like, I mean, like, no disrespect to anybody who likes Final Fantasy 12. I'm really excited for Zodiac Age just so that I can... I know I say this like every week. I'm really excited for Zodiac Age so that I can give it another chance. But at the same time, I'm just like, I freaking love 10. Like, I love 10. Like, I just always thought that was the one that just everybody sort of universally liked. I thought it was the one that just was like, 10 is good. Maybe not favorite all the time, but it was good. So when I saw, like, some people were putting it really low down on the list, I was just kind of like, really, Queen? Why?
I'm actually working on a video for Final Fantasy 12 right now, and it's talking about everything that's changed between the Final Fantasy 12 and Zodiac Age, and I've been looking back at a lot of the things that Ito said, who is of course the director of the game, and he actually was really disappointed with how Final Fantasy 12 was actually people played the game. Like they had to do a lot of stuff because they ran out of time, and
they you think Final Fantasy 15 had a difficult development time or development. Final Fantasy 12 had a really bad development.
For example, one of the reasons people like Final Fantasy 12 is because it's unlike a Final Fantasy game in the past where everyone kind of had their set roles they had to play, like the job classes and stuff, whereas Final Fantasy 12 was basically you can do whatever the hell you want. But I think one of the things they found was that because anyone can do whatever the hell they want, they just made every character the same. Because logically you would do that. Like, what's the easiest way for me to get from A to B? They would just do that. So
yeah,
it's like, great, I've given you a gambit system where you can create whatever class you want, but no one's using it. Like, well, they found that a lot of people just weren't using it the way it was meant to be done, which is why with the Zodiac Age they were just like, well, we're gonna force you to.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to use job classes? Well, we're gonna make you use them. You have to stick with them. You can't change it around.
Yeah, which is why it will be really, really interesting for the people who are saying how much Final Fantasy 12 is their favorite, whether or not they like the Zodiac job system. It's really weird though. Like, I mean, the fact that, you know, this game is being remastered and people are really excited to replay Final Fantasy 12, but it's going to be like a completely different game. Like, it's really strange, a really strange situation. So,
Lewis, to answer your question, it doesn't really change the mechanics as such, but they have said that they've made Final Fantasy 12 easier this time around. So the Zodiac Age is a lot easier to play through. I think that they've done that so that because obviously the Zodiac Age adds lots of end game content, which is for kind of more advanced players. There's new modes that they've put in, so they've just wanted to make the main campaign smoother so that people could just get through it.
One of the things I really, really wanted to one of the reasons why I really wanted to play through Final Fantasy 12 was the judges as well. That's what I'm most excited about is the judges. I just want to see the judges. I like them. I think they're really cool.
Eriko Lunatic, you are correct, but apologies if I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure that in Final Fantasy 2, each of the characters had specific weapons they could use. So there were no job classes as such, but they were mandated that they could only use certain things. And
aw, thank you. And thank you, people who are getting my drag queen references. Daryl and I are watching season 9 at the moment. No spoilers, but we're kind of stuck into RuPaul's Drag Race.
We've hit a lull. What's happened?
We have.
Why have you? It's the Drag Race conversation. You've killed.
I know. I've killed the chat. I've killed the chat. No. But yeah, no. I really liked Final Fantasy VI. I thought it was a great game. I can see why people have a lot of love for it, even though the characters were a bit there was just too many characters.
Yeah, I mean, I that's one of the things with Final Fantasy VI I think they genuinely struggle with, because
and what they would struggle with the remake.
Since they've kind of moved into HD and they've tried to make the storytelling a lot more advanced, they've really struggled with that. So obviously Final Fantasy 13 only had 6 main characters, and they tried to give each main character the same level of focus and development, which just didn't work.
Yeah.
And obviously with Final Fantasy 15 they cut it down to 4. Like they're What's going on there? Moths. We're getting attacked by moths. Was it Final Fantasy?
Oh my god! There's are all those little lions moths?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say.
With for Final Fantasy 6, they had 16
here.
characters or something ridiculous. I don't really know how they'd be able to do that, especially with voice acting and trying to get each character developed as well as they can.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous, because there's some characters that you find. There's one character that you freaking find in the pit of the stomach of a worm, and that's the only interaction that you have with him. And it's just yo, can you get me out of here? Cool, bye. And then, yeah, that's it.
Burn them off.
If they don't have any freaking Drag Race references in Final Fantasy VII Remake when Cloud is dressed up as a girl, I am.
Well, they put Trump references in Final Fantasy 15, so it's not too far out of.
No, and they even had some references to Drag Race in Final Fantasy 15 with realness. Well, maybe not RuPaul's Drag Race in general, but Drag Race culture.
MJ, are we going to be upset if they change the elements of Final Fantasy Remake? I can't speak for Lauren, but my opinion is very much I really don't care what the hell they do as long as they do it well.
Yeah.
Like it's the original guys pretty much working on the game. They know what they want to do with it. So they did it very well the first time around. I'm hoping they're going to do it well the second time around.
Yeah.
I don't really care that much. I'm not a purist. I don't really want them to keep it the same because it's not the same game they're making again. So it's based on whether or not the remake is good. If it's good, then obviously I don't care that they change things.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's certain things that it's a bit of a shame that it's going to be gone from. Like, I'm really wondering how they're going to handle the optional characters, which I think Kane Tyler mentioned. Like, the fact that Vincent and Yuffie, they basically... I don't know how they would make them optional anymore. Like...
No, they're not, they blatantly can't be optional.
They can't be. So it's like those kind of small elements. And then also, like, will they still have, like, W item and those kind of things going on? And the stuff with, like, the golden chocobo. Like, I feel like those might be referenced, but not actually in them. Like, I just have a feeling that... it won't be the same sort of game.
Kane Tyler, are we going to do a collaboration with Final Fantasy Peasant?
Oh, you're a cutie.
We actually have already done 2 podcasts with Final Fantasy Peasant. We've known Jake for a while, actually.
Yeah. I've seen a couple people ask about that. Jake is a sweetie.
Silence.
Done. But yeah, episode prompt though should be good.
I really want to see. Obviously, Tabata's talked about the fact that he wants to do a remake of the original Final Fantasy game. I would love to see that. I would love to see a Tabata remake of Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah, no,
and not just cool. Like, because obviously the remake that we had on the PlayStation Portable and the Game Boy Advance was basically just the original game with spruced up graphics and a couple of dungeons and stuff. It wasn't like completely redone on high definition consoles and stuff.
Also, I'm not sure about the Final Fantasy 8 and 9 ports, Mubaka. If somebody could answer that, I'm not sure whether or not they're on PS4 yet. I have all my stuff on Steam.
Whoops.
I bought all of my Final Fantasy games on Steam. It's not the intended console to play Final Fantasy games on.
It's not a console at all.
Yeah.
This is lots of dead time, Lawrence. Think of it something to discuss. Come on.
Yeah, no. I mean, I honestly, like, I unpopular opinion. I'm not that fussed about the remakes. Like, there's games that I'm just kind of like,
we don't know enough about. We literally know nothing about the Final Fantasy VII remake yet.
No,
like, I can't.
It's hard to make
I can't get excited about it because we don't know anything about it. All we know is it's going to be an action-based game, and so far we know that you're going to be able to play as Cloud and Barrett.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. There's going to be material in it, but we don't know how. There's going to be limit breaks in it, but we don't know in what capacity. You can throw hand grenades and you can use cover.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much all we know about the Final Fantasy VII remake. It's so limited.
Yeah.
It's so limited. I don't know how I can be excited for it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to learn more, if that helps. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You allowed to, yeah. One of my favorite Final Fantasy summons. Also, Phoenix 110189. Thank you. I really enjoyed doing the Final Fantasy 15 analysis videos. I think probably my favorite one was actually Bravus. I don't know why. once I started delving into Ravis, I just thought the guy got really shafted.
Yeah, no, he's really cool.
The Ignis one turned out really well. The Luna one, it was probably my least favorite of the 3 that I've done, but I've enjoyed all of them.
Yeah, no, I think the Ravis one was really, really cool. But as for favorite summons,
I always liked using. I thought Brothers was really cute.
Yeah, Brothers is sweet.
There's not any that I never really used summons because I think they're pretty useless.
I didn't really, to be honest, in Final Fantasy X, I didn't really use him, but I always really loved Yojimbo.
Yeah, I never used
the cheat.
No.
I just liked him. I just thought his design was just so cool.
I mean, Final Fantasy X is the game I use summons more than anything else because there was the easiest way to beat bosses if you just couldn't. You just go in with them all on limit breaks and just, who cares if they die? Sounds really callous, but it's just the way you've got to do things.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a preference between the summons. They all did their limit breaks, and then I let them leave.
I think like Odin and sort of Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy VIII were really cool. I thought that was a really cool way of incorporating both of them in Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII summons were fun. There's so many summons in that game. Oh, join our Patreon.
Put a link,
if you
Lawrence.
Can. Yeah, I'll put a link to our Patreon. Oh, Shiva in Final Fantasy X is stellar. I love her so much.
I kind of like the ones where they actually do something aside from damage. Like there's a reason to use them.
Yeah, kind of like.
But they never really have.
Kind of like
many.
Cerberus in Final Fantasy VIII, where you could get like triple. That was epic.
Because like if it was one where it kind of buffed your characters up significantly, I would likely use it, but most of the time it's like you got Carbuncle who cast Reflect, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
Because then you can't hear yourself.
Yeah, it's true. But no, there's certain ones that were really cool.
I did like Eden. I loved Eden in Final Fantasy because of the damage, but I hated it because of how long it took. Yeah. I mean, it was really great to get the maximum boost, but you had to sit there for a damn long time.
A decade. Do I actually... Assad asked if I actually think Vernoa is Ultimecia, and I honestly, I know they've already disproved it, but I really liked that theory. I thought it was a pretty stellar theory. I mean, yeah, I thought it was cool. So I liked to think that she is, even though... It's already been proven in the Ultimania that she isn't, which is sad.
I still think those when they talk about this stuff, some of them are just like when they confirm or deny story theories. It's like that one where for laziness they use the same face model. Like it's just like you overlay the faces, they're the same. Yeah. But they'll shoot that one down. Yeah. But then they'll go, oh, actually, Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy VII are the same world.
Yeah, but then that is Nojima, isn't it?
But he wrote them both.
I know. That's true. Fudge. Why, Nojima? Why?
I do confess, when I played Final Fantasy, I did have a turbo controller. So I didn't have to mash the square button. I just pressed it down and held it on. But then you still had to unpress it when the X came on.
And yeah, it is disproven in the Ultimania. Basically what they said is that the only reason why it doesn't work is because sorceresses do have a lifeline, an age type thing. And I think that was one of the spanner in the works, is whether or not sorceresses could live forever, and they can't. They're not immortal. They do get old and die.
I still wish Square would go back to their crazy old days where, like, for example, I don't think most people know that with Final Fantasy X, they just scrapped the entire story like halfway through, including all of the cast of characters apart from Tidus. Like, could you imagine if they they kind of like this the Stella thing. Yeah. Like everyone lost their crap about it. But like Final Fantasy X, the game didn't have anywhere near as long development time back then. So like halfway through development, they were just like, nah, screw it, it's not working out. Let's just start again. And the story turned out to be really good. They just kind of made stuff work.
Yeah. 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 It's really strange, isn't it? It's almost why like I'm sort of like I just want to see the end product. I don't really care about the development.
But it's just like the whole marketing thing they have to do now, where they have to do so much time, and it's why like with the Final Fantasy VII remake, I'm really not too bothered about the fact they haven't.
I mean, maybe we just miss it, but they don't. I don't really hear them doing that with other games, like talking about characters that they've cut and stuff.
Well, it's because it never really happens.
It never. I guess not. Like that's the thing. I don't know. Well, it might happen, and they just don't talk about it.
Well, it's like in the past.
Because like I mean, in Uncharted, they freaking changed her.
But it's like with Final Fantasy 13, right? They announced Lightning right at the beginning, but they didn't announce another character for a very long time.
Yeah.
Whereas, and it was the same with Versus 13 as well. Of course, before it became 15. But you know, they do make a lot of changes. So with the Final Fantasy 12 remaster coming out,
yes.
How many of you guys are annoyed about the fact they're mandating that you have to listen to the new remastered soundtrack?
I am.
Are you?
Well, I'm actually, it's just weird because like you're saying it's a remaster, but essentially it's like not, because it's not the same game anymore. And I think it is pretty crappy of them to make you pay for the original soundtrack when it's just like, well, we wanted the remaster, but we want to still be able to listen to the original music.
Type 0 definitely did change a lot. Type 0 was an interesting one.
But I love Type 0. I do. Type 0 is so great.
All right, I think, Lauren, we need to
go to bed, actually.
We need to skedaddle.
Because I am exhausted.
All right, before we leave, a couple of things that I probably should say about... if you would like to support our channel, please head over to our Patreon. Lauren's going to put a link in there. Yep. We have just passed 25,000 subscribs, so thank you everyone who has supported us so far. We're going to be doing a giveaway soon. We're going to be probably giving away a Play Arts and doing some stuff. If you're in a Patreon supporter, you're going to have a much better chance in the giveaway. So that's something else to consider if you want to support us. I'll also put a link to the group. We have our Facebook group as well, which we've set up. I think there's about 160 of you guys in there now. Just talk, have discussions and stuff. We will try our best. Post up whatever. We'll try our best to do stuff, but we have live, like this week, for example, we had our whole house was gutted because we had windows fitted in every single room, and we weren't even able to stay in our house for 2 days. No, we were living like nomads because we kept having to go to other places to sleep because of the fumes. We didn't want to die. It's been a fun week. That's why the videos we haven't really put out too many videos. I know. This week. I'm really sorry about that, but hopefully things will be better. Soon. We don't have that much planned. Like we have cabinets going in tomorrow, hopefully, so that shouldn't take up too much time. But yes, we'll see you next week. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Bye. Bye.